watching KOMO News.
Good morning and thanks for joining us for this special online edition of KOMO News at 11. ABC is airing Major League Baseball's wild card game on KOMO right now. We begin here with breaking news. Israel under missile attack this morning by Iran. Video shows the missiles in the sky over northern Israel with air raid sirens ringing out in several areas. The Israeli military using its Iron Dome system to try to knock down those missiles. Iran says it fired dozens of missiles into Israel, and there are reports of explosions. But actual damage reports and what exactly was targeted are still unclear. This attack comes just hours after the White House warned that it feared an Iranian missile attack was imminent. Overnight, Israeli forces stepped up their attacks against Hezbollah, a militant group backed by Iran, with targeted ground operations inside southern Lebanon. Iran saying this morning that the missile attack is in response to last week's killing of Hezbollah's leader. The Biden administration had warned Iran not to fire those missiles into Israel, saying there would be severe consequences. Concerns are growing that this situation could escalate further into a wider regional conflict. The Pentagon has now ordered more planes and personnel to the Middle East. Again, Israel came under missile attack from Iran this morning. Look for updates on this breaking story on KOMOnews.com and on the air on KOMO News. Anger, frustration, and worry. That's what some students and parents are feeling this morning as Seattle Public Schools looks at closing dozens of schools. And now the school board is considering a potential salary bump for the superintendent. KOMO's Stella Sun has the story.
Yeah, the Seattle Public School Board will vote this afternoon whether to give a $25,000 bonus to the superintendent. Meanwhile, Seattle Public Schools is facing a major deficit that could shutter schools across the city. Save our schools! SPS will weigh whether the superintendent could get the bonus, which could bring his salary to more than $350,000. The vote is set for 4:30 today. Students and parents frustrated, making their voices heard outside of Louisa Boren STEM K-8 school in West Seattle yesterday, one of the schools on the chopping block.
So many families are going to be impacted if this goes through. My kids have gone through lots of emotions about it: tears, anxiety, anger.
Worried parents say keeping schools open should come before lining the pockets of the superintendent.
Shouldn't be doing that now when we are in this horrible moment of cutting so many schools across the city.
Right now, the district is weighing between two different proposals, both of which would close dozens of schools in Seattle. It's not clear when a choice will be made, but one way or another, SPS will need to address its nearly $1 million deficit. In Seattle, Stella Sun, KOMO News, back to you.
And that brings us to this morning's KOMO Pulse poll. We're asking, how do you feel about a plan to give the Seattle school superintendent a pay bump? Right now, you can see most people by far, 94%, say no pay bump during a budget crisis. Just 6% say fine, it is a tough job. If you'd like to add your vote this morning, just point your phone's camera at the QR code there on your screen. That creates a link that will take you directly to the poll at KOMOnews.com. Well, check out the mess left behind after someone smashed a truck into the front of a Walgreens in Seattle's Central District. You can see the mangled security gate there, the glass inside and outside the store at 23rd and Jackson. We have calls into Seattle Police to find out if they are investigating this as another crash and grab burglary, whether any merchandise was stolen. It will now cost you more to ride a Washington State ferry anywhere in the system. KOMO's Theron Zahn breaks down the changes from Coleman Dock in Seattle.
Here at Coleman Dock, lots of people are talking about the fare increase starting today. You can see over here, there's the doors where people head out to Bremerton, the turnstiles where you pay. This is the second time ferry rates have gone up in 2 years. Washington State Ferries is charging more so they can bring in the amount of money they're required to in the current transportation budget set by lawmakers. Today, fares go up by 4.25%. That comes out to about 75 cents per trip.
I'm sure they have good reason to do it. I mean, I'm not happy about it. I haven't seen your discount card, but still, it adds up.
Washington State Transportation Commission approved the increase back in 2023. According to the WTSC, 57% of Washington State Ferry's operations are paid for by fare revenues. The other 43% comes from other tax revenues.
We got to do something. It's got to come from somewhere, right? It's got to come from you and me. So I'm not happy about it, but it's either sink or swim, right?
One of the reasons the ferry service needs to charge each passenger more is because of trouble with getting enough boats into service, according to the Seattle Times. Fewer sailings mean less revenue. Crewing is one of the reasons many sailings have to be canceled. KOMO News has been told Washington State Ferries doesn't have an issue getting people to apply for the jobs on ferries. It's the lengthy training that is making it hard to get back up to full staffing. There is some good news for ferry riders. Today is the first day with no peak season surcharge on cars and trucks. That comes back on May 1st of next year. But again, if you're going to be traveling on any run, whether you're taking a car or walking on, you're going to pay more starting today, and that average amount is right around 75 cents. Reporting at Coleman Dock in Seattle, Theron Zahn, KOMO News.
And taking a live look at Seattle Center now this morning. Right now, a news conference is about to get underway, revealing details around the 2026 World Cup. City leaders say Seattle Center will be the center of action for fans. Organizers say hosting World Cup games will be like hosting 6 Super Bowls in a month. And the impact will be on par with the 1962 World's Fair. The city first considered the Seattle waterfront, but given the expected crowds, decided on Seattle Center. The city believes it can host 30,000 fans per day. We do have a crew covering the news conference. Look for updates on KOMO News starting this afternoon at 3 o'clock, as well as on KOMOnews.com. This morning, thousands of dock workers from Maine to Texas are on strike. Members of the Longshoremen's Union hit picket lines overnight. The contract standoff with the U.S. Maritime Alliance now threatens to derail the supply chain. Union members want a 77% pay hike over 6 years and limits on automated cranes and trucks.
I want to tell you all what you're doing is right. This is going down in history, what we're doing here.
The ports offered a nearly 50% pay increase and a pledge to limit automation. Retailers worry a strike lasting more than a couple weeks could force businesses to raise prices for customers.
If all the East Coast and the Gulf Coast ports are closed, businesses will be bringing things in from the West Coast, which will cause more congestion there. And you have to transport that all the way across the country. Ultimately, what that means is higher costs for consumers.
President Biden can force union members back to work if a strike is considered a danger to the economy. Right now, he has indicated he will not do that. Boeing machinists are still on the picket lines this morning, and now those striking workers are without their company health insurance. Yesterday was the last day for benefits for striking workers. They can now get COBRA at their own expense. And thanks to a new state law, they also qualify for the state's health plan while in the midst of a strike. There is still no sign of a new contract deal between the union and Boeing. At noon today, postal workers around Seattle will participate in a nationwide Day of Action rally. They're sounding the alarm about staffing at the U.S. Postal Service and pushing for better service and restoring public input. These workers are members of the American Postal Workers Union, and they're currently in negotiations for a new contract. They want USPS to improve entry-level wages and treatment of employees, which they say would improve their staffing challenges. Search and rescue teams continue the painstaking work in North Carolina, where hundreds of people are still missing after Hurricane Helene. New aerial video shows the scope of the widespread devastation in the western part of the state. The storm that first hit Georgia late last week is now blamed for more than 130 deaths in the south. Flooding rescues are happening around the clock. One man shown here being lifted to safety after a wall of mud hit his home. His fiancée is among the missing.
We looked outside and there was a 30-foot tall wall of water and rocks and tree debris just coming at us. I crawled around screaming, looking for it. I just couldn't find it.
Thousands of National Guard members, volunteers, and FEMA workers are now bringing food and supplies to those cut off by roads washed away by flooding. President Biden will travel to those hurricane-ravaged areas tomorrow. Happening tonight, vice presidential nominees Democrat Tim Walz and Republican J.D. Vance will square off in New York City in their first and only debate. This debate will be 90 minutes long, with both candidates getting 2 minutes for their closing arguments. The two campaigns are battling to win over undecided voters. You can watch that vice presidential debate right here on KOMO tonight. Our special coverage starts at 5 p.m. and then join us after the debate for a special edition of KOMO News. A controversial new policy goes into effect today for Seattle police. Officers will now only respond to alarm calls when there is evidence that a home or business is actually being burglarized. That could include photos or videos. The department says false alarm calls tie up already limited resources, and very few result in arrests. In another effort to save resources, SPD says it's now getting rid of its mounted patrol unit. That unit has been funded by donations. The department says it must prioritize existing resources, and the unit cannot be started and stopped. SPD says it's now working to find a compassionate transition for the horses. Former owners of donated horses will be given the chance to take them back. New Sound Transit data shows a sharp increase of reported attacks involving both passengers and transit workers. Among the findings here, a third more reports of passenger assaults and nearly double the number of attacks on transit workers. Sound Transit says the data reflects more crimes coming to light.
By the end of the year, we really want to have a much better sense of the true data, and that reflects what happens on the train, at the station itself, and at the entrance to the station.
Reported assaults started to spike in the summer of 2023, which is when dozens of security guards were added to the overall system. Sound Transit also says there was a huge increase in reporting after the See Something, Say Something campaign began. Gonzaga is now joining the Pac-12. That conference posted a graphic on social media this morning as part of the official announcement. Gonzaga is set to join the conference in the summer of 2026. While they don't have a football team, the Bulldogs are, of course, a basketball powerhouse. Gonzaga becomes the 8th member of the Pac-12 that includes Washington State, Oregon State, and Boise State. And let's get a live look now at Lumen Field. The Seahawks are on a short week now as they turn their focus to Sunday's upcoming game against the New York Giants. The Seahawks coming off that tough loss last night in Detroit on Monday Night Football. The Hawks fell behind early in this one, down 21-7 at halftime. They did fight back in the second half, but the Lions also put up another 3 TDs on the board. The Seahawks losing 42-29.
When we walked out there on that field, we were down 14, but there was no doubt that we were going to give ourselves a chance to win. Unfortunately, we didn't do enough. I didn't do enough to get that done. But it's one game. Move on, go to next week.
Geno Smith did throw for nearly 400 yards, a TD, and just 1 pick while trying to erase the deficit. Kenneth Walker had a solid night with 80 yards on 12 carries and 3 touchdowns. Some positive notes to carry into the week with the Giants coming to town here in Seattle on Sunday. All right, let's get another live look outside. This time we've got a view of Mount Rainier, and that always signals, or we expect it will anyway, George, signals a nice day ahead. When we can see the mountain, that's a positive sign.
It really is, but when you can see the clouds building, that can signify changes as well. And we do have a few changes to talk about for the rest of the day, but they'll be kind of minor. Let me explain. We'll start out live with our camera over the Seattle waterfront. If you look into the horizon, you can see some of the clouds building. That is basically cloud cover associated with our next weather maker that's moving in from the west. Right now, 60 degrees. It's actually very nice out there. If you saw, the pressure was falling, indicating that that system is approaching Seattle. Steady pressure in Bellingham, but notice the clouds are much thicker here and the temperatures are cooler. And then to the San Juan Islands, James Island looking cloudy as cooler temperatures and more cloud cover blanket our northern zones, a little warmer, and the continued warming for South Sound and Central Sound areas. I put on the visible satellite. You can see the clouds creeping in, and behind that, or on top of that, some light rain beginning to fall over the strait and parts of the Olympic Peninsula. This is ahead of our next weather maker. Most of the energy with this will be to the north. We will get a few showers moving in today, but check out that impressive spiral with this storm system. The main storm system will weaken and move into British Columbia. We'll get some showers on the southeast side of this, and these will kind of taper as they move through our area. So for today, the clouds build by the end of the day between Bellevue, Seattle, Federal Way, upper 60s, low 70s. A few isolated showers here toward day's end. Not everybody gets the rain. Now, a different story over the San Juan Islands, Anacortes, Whidbey Island, over toward Bellingham and Linden. 50s today, more cloud cover and a few light showers, a little more likely. Northern tier of the Olympic Peninsula, a few showers through the afternoon. Meanwhile, farther south toward the Chehalis Valley, low 70s with sunshine most of the day. Farther east, more sunshine and warmer temperatures. And then overnight, any rain that moves through will quickly end. Broken cloud cover and cool weather overnight through tomorrow morning. You can see this is a very low impact system, but still for the drive home, a few areas with wet roadways. So please use caution as you drive home or whatever you're doing this evening. For tomorrow, behind the system, just a few residual sprinkles. Otherwise, should be a relatively quiet day. Our rainfall from this event doesn't look to be too impressive. A few hundredths of an inch for those that see it, some slightly higher amounts just to the north. For tomorrow, a few spotty sprinkles. Otherwise, pretty quiet the next 2 days. Friday, we have a better chance for rain and a more widespread round of rain as our next stronger system approaches. You can see kind of a trough-like pattern here in our upper airflow. This is going to be more effective at distributing widespread rain on Friday. So walking you through our week, a few showers later today. Not everybody gets the rain. Mainly quiet, but a few additional sprinkles tomorrow. The best chance for the heaviest rain looks to be on Friday with that next weather maker. This weekend, though, looks nice with warmer afternoons and low rain chances. Let's take you to our extended forecast here. Again, looking pretty nice for this afternoon, watching that isolated rain. Otherwise, the clouds building and cool temperatures overnight. Tomorrow, it's a little cooler behind the system, only 62 degrees, then 66 on Thursday. For Friday, watching our rain pick up. That'll be the day to watch midday and afternoon for some steady rainfall. And then, Molly, this upcoming weekend, I have no problems with that forecast. Nothing wrong with hitting 70 with sunshine on Sunday for October.
This is exactly why fall is a favorite season for so many people around here.
Yes, make your plans, pumpkin patches, whatever you want to do.
Just perfect for it. George, thank you. This morning, a happy and historic 100th birthday to former President Jimmy Carter. Carter is now the first American president ever to reach triple digits. He also holds the record for living the longest after his time in office, 43 years and counting. After his lone term ended in 1981, Carter and his wife Rosalind shifted their focus to volunteering. She just died last year at the age of 96. Carter has been in hospice care for more than a year and a half. That's it for this special edition of KOMO News at 11 a.m. We'll see you back on the air on KOMO half an hour early this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And you can always find us on KOMOnews.com and your favorite social media. Have a great day.